I think there's one other issue I'd like to bring up.
Okay.
I'd like some explanation for the argument about the finding that the bike route is going to, or access to the bike path would be burdensome. I haven't had a chance to read this in detail, but if you could expand on that argument.
Well, as you know, as it says in my memo, religious exercise, religious uses enjoy constitutional protection. As I said to Bill Newman, the First Amendment to the Constitution says that Congress shall make no law regarding the establishment of religion or the free exercise thereof, and that comes before free speech and press. It is a very important thing to our forefathers.
I understand, but I would appreciate it if you went to the point of my question.
That's right, and so the question arises over a number of times as to what sort of authority government has to regulate any church use. The law has always been, as you know in your zoning ordinance, you have an exemption for educational, religious, and other uses. The educational use is based on the religious use is based on the idea you can't regulate it. The cases have generally found that if the religious use is burdened by the ordinance.
Which was my question.
That's right. If the religious use is burdened by the ordinance, the religious use is exempt from it. So what constitutes a burden? And
which is what I asked.
That's right.
Thank you, please.
And many courts have differed on how significant or substantial the burden must be. Obviously, completely disallowing it is burdensome. If the architectural board chose to not allow the removal of that so that they could build their parking and church lot, that was exactly the Mintz case that was decided in Springfield a few years ago. And the court found that that was burdensome. Is the cost or expense burdensome? That depends. It's a qualitative sort of measure. Is the fact that you are making public access across your property and then bearing the liability and responsibility of not only maintaining such public access, but maintaining all of your property in a safe condition for the public to pass upon it, a problem. You might ask, well, what's the difference in maintaining it for your parishioners? Well, your parishioners generally don't sue their church. But the point is you've now made church property public property by requiring access to the public across that property.
So far you've raised a number of questions. You haven't actually stated what
those are the burdens. They're making the church property public property that all people can access, and the cost of maintaining it, and the possibility of bearing the burden of liability for that.
That would have been 30 seconds.
Right. And the thing I think that's important, though, and I just end up taking a long part of the conversation here, is why a bike path would be burdensome to a church and the practice of their religious beliefs, but it's not to every other business that we've asked to do the same thing, including most new development in King Street, what was Spaghetti Freddy's, parking lot behind us, the rec department fields, the Cole Morgan village on Hospital Hill. Every place we've asked, we've never actually had anybody say no. So that's why there's a lot of experience.
Well, I thought the issue was that the burden on the city was the 2 curb cuts. And I thought it was more or less a deal that the exposure, the potential liability of that second curb cut, we would agree to that burden if we got access to the bike path. And so I thought it was
that's our decision, I think.
Right.
Our position on that is we have 2 existing curb cuts, and we're improving the curb.
It seems to me that the bike path connection would be for the convenience, that could be for the convenience of the parishioners as well, both pedestrian and regular. And I don't see it as a huge public access from King Street.
I just want to clarify, the point is you're not asking for the applicant to do public access. It is the separation of pedestrian and bicycles, providing a safe access for the users of the site. So the fact that they're in that what I mean, as part of the site plan approval process and the criteria, that you create the separation, safe pedestrian separation from vehicles. And clearly they're consolidating their churches into one location and selling the Holly Street. There's a whole neighborhood on the other side of the bike path that will probably be coming over because the church on the other side of the bike path is closed. So there's access and safe access that can be separated, and it is connected to the two curb cuts that are widened. And yes, they're slightly moved, but they are widened, and there are two of them. So, but again, I just want to, the condition or the requirement wouldn't be that it's for public access. It's really just for their use.